Wilmington is getting new firefighters, but that happened after a long and contentious debate and controversy, and calls for the firing of the Wilmington Fire Chief. He's here with us today, Wilmington Fire Chief Anthony Goode. This is the Delaware Way. Hi, and welcome to the Delaware Way. Today we are with Wilmington Fire Chief Anthony Goode, who has been in the middle of a controversy for quite some time, a controversy that was accelerated by a blog post that he made, and the chief is here now to talk about that and many other things relating to the Wilmington Fire Department. Chief, first of all, thanks so much for being here.
Not a problem.
I want to start off by saying congratulations. You've had a long fight in trying to get some vacancies in the Wilmington Fire Department filled, and it seems like you're going to get them filled.
I hope so. I hope so. You know, the battle's not over. It's always going. But we are filling right now. We are doing a hiring process to fill those vacancies. Last Friday, the mayor, of course, vetoed the ordinance that was put forth by the City Council to take and cut 8 positions, or the funding for 8 positions. It would have put us in a position where we needed to come up with $511,000 to fill those jobs. The mayor vetoed that. Of course, City Council does have an opportunity 15 days from a veto to take and overturn the veto, but I don't believe they're in a position that they're going to do that right now. So
let's back up a little bit just to explain to the viewers what we're talking about. How long do you feel you've been understaffed?
Well, the Wilmington Fire Department was hiring because we had what was called a SAFER grant. It's the Staffing of Adequate Firefighters in the Fire Service grant that was received from the feds, and we were hiring one-on-one basis, but the list to hire those individuals expired in May, on May 1st. So we were replacing bodies as they became available. As soon as a vacancy would open, we'd replace with the individual off the eligibility list. Now, because that eligibility list went dead in May and it was completely ended, we took and had to go towards a new process, which is by city code, we would have to put together a class, and by city code, you have to be down to 95% of your staffing in order to have a class. So since about April 20th or so, we started receiving vacancies. A large number of individuals have been retiring and resigning from the Wilmington Fire Department to move on to different opportunities that they've been receiving. Most of them have anywhere between 35 to 40 years in service for the Wilmington, protecting the city of Wilmington.
And what's happened? They just haven't been replaced?
They haven't been replaced because we haven't reached the threshold of 95%. Sometime in about the end of June, start of July, we reached that threshold. We reached, which is 9 bodies. Our uniform strength is 172 members. So once we hit 9 bodies, we were able to take and start a recruitment process, and that's what we did. That's according to city code as released.
But the City Council didn't want you to replace them.
Now, City Council thought as though that we could save some funding, $511,000 worth of funding for eliminating the 8 positions. That's how many positions we were down at the time that they wanted to take and put forth this ordinance. Today, currently, we're down 11 positions. We've had 11 individuals that can retire, and we have those vacancies that we want to fill. They thought they could save $511,000 by by eliminating the positions, but the problem is to keep all of our companies in service, we would have to fill those positions with overtime, which means 24 hours a day, somebody's being paid overtime to fill any vacancy that we have. We simply don't have the funding for that.
But do you have to keep all of those stations open?
Yes.
Because some people argue you don't.
Yes, and there is. There's even a study out there that says that we can close some of the stations and still be able to be efficient. And that's, in my eyes and in the view of this administration's eyes, is inaccurate.
But haven't they been doing that for a while? I mean, under the previous mayor, they went around and
they did rolling bypass.
And you'd take turns closing a station. That's
correct. They did.
Did that work?
Rolling bypass. It did to an extent in saving dollars because you didn't have the dollars to take and use for overtime. Well, and it's not even a savings, it's more of a cost control program where you're not taking and actually putting forth any more dollars that you don't have already fiscally pushed into your budget. The way it worked by closing stations in different areas of the city was you wouldn't close the entire station, you would close a unit, which was the engine company, the company that delivers water to put out the fire, the company that responds to you if you're sick, you're having a heart attack, CPR needs to be done, or anything like that. By doing so, it actually did increase our response times. And I believe when it happened, it was something that we didn't want to go out and tell people necessarily, but we can't sit back idly and just tell people that it's not happening. It is happening.
You operated for a long time under the what did you call them?
Rolling bypass.
The rolling bypass, where a station would close for a while, and with a reduction in force.
Well, there was no reduction in force.
Well, it was down to close to 95%, right? You were saying it kept going down until it went under 95%.
Correct. Now, but what you have to look for is when they're doing so. When we say that we're down 95%, those vacancies are filled every day by overtime individuals.
Okay, so it wasn't only in May did it become a problem?
They were still being filled by overtime individuals even in May. That's why we lost a little bit of control of what council was actually saying, what they were trying to do. When we have vacancies, it's not like simply there's no one there, so we don't do anything with the vacancy. It has to be filled with overtime expense.
So the cuts never happened. They were proposed to happen.
They were proposed to happen, correct.
So it's your. I have the blog post,
Absolutely.
so I know it is your fervent feeling that if those cuts happened, there would have been a huge reduction in service in the city of Wilmington.
Yes, it would have definitely hurt us. What we've done is over the last 18 months that we've been here in office is we've been able to take and reconfigure all the stations, reconfigure our manning, our staffing levels so that everything is laid out as even as possible so that each station stays open without having to take and go over budget in our overtime or anything else. This winter was pretty harsh. It did cause us to go over because of the harsh winter, but outside of that, we've been operating flawlessly. We've been doing so very well. What's happened now is by eliminating those positions, it takes away from our ability to take and keep all of those companies in service because we won't have the overtime funds.
And what you're also saying is you're saving a penny to waste a dollar, that if you're going to end up paying the overtime anyway,
Correct.
you might as well just have the staffing.
Correct.
I teased the controversy. I talked about the blog post, but I got so wrapped up in the details of the cuts and especially the system, which I hadn't heard about before, that we didn't get to it. But when we come back on the Delaware Way, we'll talk about the source of the controversy we talked about at the top of the show and a blog post that the chief made, and we'll find out if he regrets it when we come back.